Hi everyone, I'm just back from seeing Black Phone 2, which I was surprised to see has had some quite mixed reviews. I want to defend it. I think it was a really good movie. It has its flaws, but at its core, it's this really artistically beautiful, terrifying film. I am not easily scared by horror movies. My partner is always absolutely terrified, and I'm always just sitting there, like, kind of almost zen, like, everything's fine. And then this one, I couldn't look. I was sitting in my seat in the cinema. I was like this. I was looking down. There were bits of it where I was having to look up like this because it was just, oh, I can't look at that face. For a film that is based around the scary face, on one level, it does a hell of a lot with it. I understand that people are saying that it's derivative of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I want to defend it specifically against that accusation. The storyline, though, first of all, is quite similar in some ways to Nightmare on Elm Street, which is that the killer is stalking the central characters through their dreams. That's where people are drawing the comparison and saying it's a rip-off. Um, the two central characters have survived a serial killer. They're a brother and a sister, and the boy in the first film survived a serial killer. Strange fact here: I didn't see the first film. I'm seeing this cold, so I think that probably helps. I've got no expectations. I'm not thinking that this is going to be the same as the first movie, which I gather was not supernatural. It was fine for me that this was a dead serial killer stalking kids through their dreams. I accepted that premise. The reason it's not derivative is, first of all, it's extraordinarily beautiful in its own terms. Sometimes it's so gorgeous to look at that you almost feel like the talents of all of the cinematographers, the director of photography, the art directors, the um, the costume and set people, they've all been wasted because the material, although strong, I mean, this could be in the Museum of Modern Art, parts of this. Like, it's so beautiful that you sort of do a double take. I first noticed it very early on, but it gets more and more as it goes on. That there's a point where they're driving to this lakeside summer camp for Christian teens, and the whole thing is set in the 80s, and you've got 80s music playing and snow falling and these lorries and other, large vehicles going along the motorway at night. And I was thinking, this has ruined the story for me. Like, I've been completely taken out of the story by how much attention has been lavished on this painterly scene. It's like something out of Edward Hopper gone wrong. It's gorgeous. So the, that's first of all, I would say, do not underestimate how aesthetically pleasing this film will be. But also, what that means is that the dream sequences where these children are stalked by the man who went after their family the first time round and is now operating in this dream space, they are absolutely terrifying. I was scared out of my mind. Someone can tell me, someone in the comments, I've now been on TikTok long enough that I know the comments sometimes go against me, and that's fine. Someone can tell me this is rubbish, it's not scary at all. I sat through Barbarian and Weapons and you name the horror movie in the last, Bring Her Back, I didn't turn a hair. I just sat there like absolutely terrified. I think it's that um, it catches what it's like to have a nightmare. The way that it's made is so careful that even the camera work, it's sort of, borrows from Nightmare on Elm Street, that kind of slightly muzzy screen, like you're kind of in a fuzzy alternate reality, like it's a milky lens. But it does something very different with it. It makes you feel that you are there. It is happening to you. This is a night. It has this incredibly weird effect of making you feel like this is a nightmare you've had. Not just a nightmare you're in, but a nightmare you've already had. Think how scary that is. Absolutely terrifying. And the effect of that, excuse me, is that you you are drawn into these nightmares, like that moment in, if you've ever read The Witches by Roald Dahl, the most terrifying moment in that book is when the child looks up at the painting and sees the figure is moving around inside the painting over time. This has the same effect. You go into these framed realities and then you're suddenly in them and you can't get back out again. Obviously, you'll have seen the posters. The killer is basically a man wearing a scary mask. It's actually Ethan Hawke, but you have to forget that in order to make it work. And that mask is just absolutely terrifying. But it's also cleverly done because it is obviously a gesture to Freddy Krueger. They've set the whole thing in the 80s so that you really feel the Nightmare on Elm Street vibes. And I think the reason that's not just derivative is this is almost like it's taking Nightmare on Elm Street and turning it into a pop art project. It's sort of the way years ago in an album that I think is massively underrated and sort of foresaw the future, Lady Gaga. I mean, this is the most millennial reaction ever, but I was a child in the 80s, so I do remember that era. So that's my defense, a millennial defense. Um, 10 or 12 years ago, Gaga recorded this album, Art Pop, and she basically turned familiar songs into slightly longer, kind of artsier, kind of pointlessly extended versions of themselves. And it was sort of surreal, and it made you feel like it was a sort of installation art piece. And that's kind of what they've done with Nightmare on Elm Street. It doesn't always work. Like, I think on the level of plot, it actually doesn't work that well. There's a scene of exposition in the middle which really left me cold, but it didn't really matter. It's really just a series of nightmares. Nightmare on Elm Street was nightmares in the service of a storyline. This is really just a series of nightmares, and the storyline is strung together. And that's actually scarier.